and welcome to Graph Expo. Our panel discussion this morning is Keeping It Real, Essential Steps to Success for Quick and Small Commercial Printers, excuse me. So used to saying quick printing that I totally missed the printers. That's a terrible thing to do. As you walk through the show floor, you're going to see a lot of technology, very innovative things that the vendors are going to tell you are going to fundamentally and essentially change the way that you do business. Well, that's nonsense. Technology does not change the way you do business. Technology has been changing since the first time Gutenberg looked at that movable type press and said to himself, I wonder what would happen if I tweaked this. It's always been changing. The only thing that is ever going to fundamentally change the way that you do business is people. Because we do business not with machines, not with other companies. We do business as we always have and as we always will, with people. And that's why we've assembled this morning's panel. They're here to share their observations and their thoughts about the shifts in the marketplace. And when we say marketplace, that's just another way of saying the people with whom you do business. They drive the change that the vendors create. They drive the change that occurs in your business. And so we're going to talk with this panel of experts and find out what they are seeing in the marketplace that could very well have fundamental implications to your businesses. So let me introduce our speakers. We have, first of all, Mr. Dave Feldman, who was a successful printing salesperson, had a wonderfully successful career, and then started Dave Feldman and Associates. He's one of the leading sales consultants in the printing and graphic arts industry, and immediately following this session, Dave will be presenting an entire seminar session on blockbuster business growth solutions for quick and small commercial printers. And Dave, what room is that in? Do you know? Right next door. All right. So by all means, sign up for that if you have not. And if you're not signed up, I imagine you could speak with Dave after this session and find your way there. I'd also like to introduce Tanya Starr on the other end. She successfully ran an Alpha Graphics franchise for many years before joining FireSpring, where she serves as the president of Printer Presence. Tanya has dedicated her career and focused her efforts on educating members of the printing industry on proven website and marketing practices and strategies. She will also be presenting a free seminar session this afternoon at 12:30 on social media, search engines, printing, and you. Mitch Evans also ran a highly successful printing company. In fact, he was a member of Quick Printing's Top 100 for many, many years, and his brother, I believe, still owns the business, and it is still a Quick Printing Top 100 company. He has now moved into consulting, where he targets the quick and small commercial industry segments. His areas of expertise include strategic planning, valuations and mergers and acquisition, financial planning, and coaching. Now, Mitch does not have a session this morning, but I'm sure he will be more than happy to stand and talk with you after our session so that you can continue your discussion with him if you care to. And rounding out our panel is a man that people have been calling for 21 years, I know because he sits at the desk beside mine, and asking him questions about what is going on in the industry. So we decided it would be a pretty good idea to have him on the panel so that you can ask him in person what he sees going on in the industry, and that is Bob Hall. He is the executive editor and editorial director for Quick Printing, Printing News, and Wide Format Imaging magazines, which make up the Cygnus Graphics Media Group. So without any further ado, let's get started with our questions. After the questions, we will open the floor for discussion, conversation, questions, and anything else you might like to contribute. Now, years ago, we talked about paradigm shifts. Well, for the last couple of years, the paradigms aren't shifting, but what we're hearing about is the new normal. Everybody talks about the new normal. And I would like to ask each member of the panel, what does this mean? What is the new normal? What does that mean to you? Mitch, you want to start us off?
Well, it means a couple of things. You hear this expression all over the place. You hear it in social conversations. You just don't hear it in the printing industry. It's just something, the recession that we've had, and you know, I'm 59 years old, so I've seen a couple other recessions. And quite frankly, when I was in business, they almost didn't affect our business. I don't know if anybody else shared that, but we had ones, I think, in the early 80s, and when interest rates were 20% or 16%, and there was another one in the late 80s and in the early 90s, and this one just seems to be different because it's hit further and longer than I think a lot of us even thought, and I don't think a lot of us were prepared for it, quite frankly. But to me, the new norm, what I hear among printers is they're not losing customers. Sales are down, and it's not because they lost their top couple customers or, you know, things have gone away. It's just that their customers are just ordering smaller quantities, not ordering some of the same stuff they used to order, and I see this almost across the board. The other thing that I see is that there's more spikes and valleys in terms of business. In other words, you'll have a great week, a real bad week, good month, and they're not the traditional ones. It's not like, well, we know it's Christmas time or holiday time, and you know, we're always quiet at this time of the year. Well, it might be the middle of October when traditionally that's usually a pretty good time for printers. And it just seems that the old patterns that we used to have just don't seem to apply anymore. The other thing is you just have to market and sell differently than you used to. I didn't realize it at the time, but I kind of built up my business over the years by knowing a lot of people. And Karen was right on when you say, well, who do you do business with? You're really not doing it with, you know, ABC Company. You're doing it with Tony or Joe or Susie at ABC Company. And it's the fact that you know those people is why you're doing business with them. It's not because they think you're such a great company, although that doesn't hurt. But that's where the marketing aspect comes in, is you position yourself that they think you're a great company by some of the marketing that they've seen, but all of a sudden you meet these people and you know who they are, and that's how you've done business. And I literally did business that way, not consciously over the years, but I got to know everybody. In fact, when I sold my business, one of my daughters happened to work that summer at the shop, and she says, Dad, I can't believe how many people know you. And I took that as a great compliment, but I had none of them were really my customers. They were all just people that came to our business and worked with other people by doing this. Well, now it's all called social networking. They've actually put terms on it, and because of the internet, that's happened, and it's not a new concept. It's networking at a different level, and that's something that I see that people are starting to take advantage of, but quite frankly, a lot of people just aren't still doing it. And I think that's a lot of the new normal now in terms of business.
And thank you very much, Mitch. I think that maybe Tanya could speak to the new normal as relates to social media.
Well, the new normal, I really don't know what that means, honestly. Oh, there are so many catchphrases to describe change. It's change. We're changing. The new normal is really, technology is evolving in how you can reach the people who purchase your products and services, and figuring out how to reach those people using conventional methods such as direct mail that we've done in the past, and networking by attending your Chamber of Commerce meetings and lead groups and so forth is just now incorporating another element to that mix, which is an online aspect. But the new normal, whatever that means, is your customers now are using these forms of communication to reach their audience. And I feel it's, as a printer, which is a word we're going to need to change to describe our industry, it's now you need to help your customers figure out how to communicate to their customers, whether it's through technology, social media, websites, printed advertising, and so forth. And that in my opinion, is the new normal.
And David?
I live in North Carolina. Like those of you who live in other coastal states, we care about hurricanes. And do you know that it wasn't that long ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago maybe, that hurricanes came as a surprise? We didn't know they were coming. I mean, thunderstorms, so we didn't know they were coming. So we have new technology that lets us see the hurricanes as they develop, lets us track the progress of them. I mean, isn't it true that all through this season, if you want to know what's going to happen, you know, you can watch the weather, you can watch Storm Center, they'll tell you what's on the horizon. We got so much data, we got so much information, we got new channels of distribution of information, we got bloggers, we got talkers. You know, we got people who are talking about bloggers, who are blogging about talkers. I mean, there's so much of this stuff going on out there that it was really easy, it's been really easy for whoever came up with the term to convince you that the new normal was something different. I think we all agree, it's not something different. You wake up every day, there's a new normal. There's new things going on in your little marketplace. There are trends at work in the larger marketplace. It's not all that much different, it's just getting more coverage, I think, is the issue, which probably means that we should be positioned to do more about it, because we know more about it.
And Bob, would you give us your observations about the new normal?
Well, I agree with everyone here. The new normal is the old normal. It's change, and the difference right now, I think, is the fact that in the new normal, the change, under stress, people start doing things they should have been doing in the first place. And so they've hung a tag on it, they've hung jargon on it like they did with the paradigm shift. It's the same thing. Things are changing every day, and when you realize that, like we're under the economic conditions and things we have now, you tend to go back and do some of the things that you probably should have been doing all along. So I don't think there is a new normal. I think it's a normal.
Thank you. I'm glad to know I'm not the only person who thought that. Let me ask you now, do you think that, and this is something that a lot of people are asking, and if they're not asking it, they're thinking it. It's a question that's in your mind. Do you think that our industry segment is in decline? Is it in a holding pattern? Or is it just in transition? And actually, Bob, I think I'm going to have you take that one first, if you don't mind.
Yes. It just depends on where you're at. There's always been an element of decline in our industry for years and years and years. And it's the bottom half, or the bottom of the folks who are not very good at what they do, and they've been going out of business. What's happening now is they're not being replaced like they were 10 years ago. As far as in a holding pattern, there are a number of people, because the economic conditions here recently are in a holding pattern in their businesses, which they probably shouldn't be. They're hanging around waiting for it to be over with. They're hunkering down, and of course, if they got the money to do that, that's fine. We're in transition. We're in transition probably in any number of ways because of technology, because I think more and more people, the successful people who are realizing that they really do, that they are not in the printing business, they are business people, and they need to be emphasizing that as opposed to being printers. What we do call ourselves down the road, whether we're printers or some other term, I'm not sure. But I think all three of those apply.
David, you want to take that next?
Yeah, I guess all three of them apply to, if you look at the product that you've been selling for so many years, ink and or toner and or paper, yeah, I think we all ought to agree that there's going to be less ink, toner, paper combinations in the future than there have been in the past. But that doesn't mean that that you don't have product or service to sell. I mean, if you look at the way your business has evolved over the years, how many of you were putting dots of those 4 process color things on paper 10 years ago or 20 years ago? I mean, that's been part of the evolution. Now you got machines that do all that for you. So it was a segment that started out with black ink on white paper and then toner on paper. I mean, it's been an ongoing transition. I think that what you probably want to call yourselves in the future. I mean, people are talking about marketing services providers. I like that term a lot. And you may not believe this, but I looked back in my article archives the other day. I wrote about that in 1992. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for being way out ahead of the curve.
Good
You've
job,
always had the ability to sell more than just ink and paper to your customers. So now there's probably some more urgency behind that. So decline. How about if we look at it the other way, the glass is half full rather than half empty? You could be poised for a huge growth spurt by figuring out what you can sell to your customers.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Well, I was thinking about this question ahead of time, and I was thinking about the term printing, and that we refer to ourselves as printers, and that phrase was coined by a device that was created to put ink on some type of material. At the time was paper, and it was a process. But if you think about why that invention came to be, they were looking for a more efficient way to communicate with people. That's what it was about then, and that's what it is about today. Somehow we've gotten caught up on how we create communication pieces. But if you think about the basics, letterhead, business cards, envelopes that you all create for your customers, why do you create those? You create them to help your customer send a message to their customer. You are creating communication pieces for those that you serve, and you're going to continue to do that. So I feel that the industry is not in decline. I feel how you have produced things in the past has changed, and there are still and always will be a need for businesses to communicate to their employees and to other businesses what their services are, and you are in a prime position to help them do that if you can embrace some of the changes in how that's done. So I feel we're in just a state of transition in shifting from press communication only, or presses that are used to create the communication pieces, to integrating with technology.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are in transition. We've been in transition almost forever. I mean, that's just what's been happening. It's, there's some areas of the industry that have been declining, but, 25 years ago, some we used to call commercial printers slow printers. They were having their own problems way back when with some of the techniques that they did. The quick printers kind of just ate their lunch for a while. So there's always going to be areas that are going to go up. There's some areas that are going to go down. There's certainly some products that we used to sell that we probably never sell again or very rarely sell. Some services, there has always been trends that customers bring things in-house. That still continues. It has not changed. I remember back in the 90s, we actually used a byline on one of our businesses. We said marketing communication specialists. I don't know why we came up with that, because we certainly were not anything close to what most businesses are today. But, we always knew we were in the marketing communications business. I mean, I don't think that's a secret to any of us that that's what we did. And I think if you are in a holding pattern, you're in trouble. I think that if you think you're in a holding pattern, you're going to wither and get through all this, you're not going to survive. The one thing that is different today that I've never seen in my business career is the ability to get financing and get money. And I think that's an area that's not talked about a lot right now. And that is an issue. And that is something that's, I don't know how to solve that issue real quickly, but, for small businesses right now trying to get financing on equipment, growing their business, or quite frankly, getting a credit line to, get through this has been very, very difficult. And I think the ones that have a good balance sheet are the ones that survive, and I think that's the one area that I see a problem right now, and I'm not sure how we're going to get through that.
Thank you very much. And I think probably the type of forward thinking you hear discussed here at this panel, David writing about being a marketing service provider so long ago, and Mitch talking about also using similar nomenclatures in his marketing for his company, might explain why they have been so successful over the years. And this is the kind of thing that people really need to be aware of and to adopt, is to find what is forward thinking and adopt that and move with the times. Now, there are three very critical areas for quick and small commercial printers. They are technology, sales, and business management. These are the three issues that come up over and over again. The question for the panel is any one of those items more important than the others, or are they equally important?
I think that the one is more important than the others, and that's business management. They are all important. Without sales, you don't have a business to manage. Without technology, you don't have the tools you need to have a business to manage. But I think the bottom line comes down to the fact that business management is probably the most important element out of the three, although the other two are essential.
I'm going to beg to disagree with that statement, Mr. Hall. Not the part that they're all three important, but sales, I feel, is the most critical component today more than ever in differentiating yourselves in the marketplace. As Bob pointed out, if you don't have sales, you don't have a business to manage. If you don't have sales, you do not have a business to manage. You do not understand the technology that you need to use to drive more sales to help manage the business. So I believe sales, because I don't care how great you are at business management and how fabulous your technology is, if you do not have people purchasing your products, you will not continue to exist.
Yeah, let me be a contrarian to both of those, because I was talking about that this morning with my partner, Mike Kind. Mike and I are partners in our peer groups, and I asked him this question, and I thought the exact same things Tanya said. I said sales. In fact, I wrote it down. Sales, sales, sales is what I wrote down, kind of like the realtor's location, location, location.
I see it right there.
And yeah, and Mike said to me, he says, how can you do sales without technology? And I think that's really key. And I think they're probably equally important. Because if you don't have the technology in your business and have something to sell, you can't sell it. I know over my career we had several salesmen that sold over $1 million, which is kind of the magic number that you try to get your salesman to. Was that a fair statement, Dave? And very few people get there. But if you don't have something to sell, you can't get a salesman that's going to sell $1 million. If you don't have the iron on the floor, which I used to have, or you have the latest and greatest of this, or you have the software that does whatever, variable data, it's very, very difficult to sell. And it goes hand in hand with my previous comment about trying to buy this stuff is difficult. But if you don't have the stuff in your operation to sell, it's very, very difficult. Now, on the other hand, the most important thing short term is selling. I really do think that. If you're not out there being proactive, I think there's very few people in this industry that have seen sales go up the last 2 years. There is some, but they're usually very specialized in either markets or specific products, and have just been very fortunate. But and business management, I agree 100% with you. We all know how to do that. Not that we can't do it better, because I'm all about leadership and running your company better. I think that's a key ingredient to everything. But people aren't coming here to learn how to run their business as much as they used to. When I first started coming to these conferences in, I think it was 1979, it was all about how do you run this, how do you do this, how do you manage people, what do you do for this, it was all those kind of questions that now you can get online, you can do other places, and I don't think that's as critical, although I don't want to take it totally. If you can't run your business, you can't do any of the other things very effectively. So,
All right, so management, technology, sales. I get the tiebreaker. And I may surprise some of you because I am the sales guy, right? Let me ask you a question. What does it say on your business card? And I'm speaking specifically to the owners of printing companies. What's the title on your business card? It might be president, it might be CEO, it might be, I don't know what it might be. It might be owner. But what it should be is general manager. That's what it should be, because that's the job description for the owner of the business, the general manager of the business. And if I were going to draw an organizational chart for your business, I would put that box up on top, general manager, and then I would draw a line down to another level where there would be 3 boxes. There would be sales manager, production manager, administrative manager. And I think that In your companies, you may have somebody titled production manager, you might even have somebody titled sales manager, but from what I know about most quick/digital/small commercial printing companies, the real responsibility for all of those functions rests with the owner of the company. So what I think that means is, as the production manager, you got to be on top of the technology. As the administrative manager, you got to be on top of that part of the business. As the sales manager, you got to be making sure that you're stimulating enough sales volume. But ultimately, it comes down to the general business management function. If you keep your eyes on all of the balls that you're supposed to keep your eyes on, then your business can thrive. All three of them are important, but I think that it ultimately boils up to managing the business effectively in every regard.